5 ways we're winning in today's hard as hell market in Wichita, Kansas. Before we get going with all this, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, depending on which platform you're on, and then we'll get into it here shortly. So one thing I want to make a point on is that one thing that most people think is really easy about this market is that the harder it is, the crazier it is, the easier it is for our job, and the complete opposite is true. It's actually the hotter the market, the harder it is for us to actually get somebody into a house in order to sell their house. And with this much competition, it makes our job even harder. And I know some people might think like, well, houses are selling for more. Aren't you making more money? Not if you're winning the house. Not if you're not winning the house. That's what I meant. Because if you don't win the house, then you don't make any money. You make zero. So it makes it harder to actually get the house. And we're based on 100% commission. So if we don't actually get the house and we're having to compete harder and having to go to further extent, those are harder conversations, harder situations to pull off. So that's one very key distinction I want to make, is that yes, this market is crazy hot and there's a lot of crazy things going on, but our job is harder than ever. And I want to make that key distinction with, a restricted market like we're in makes this situation harder, not easier. But let me share with you 5 ways that we are winning in this market, not to boast, not to gloat, not that kind of thing, but just to kind of show you some different ways we're really winning for our clients and for our buyers and for our sellers, and knowing how to really navigate this never before seen market. Because I don't care how many years you've been in the industry or been in real estate, no one's experienced this market before. So how to win right now is a very real-time day and age thing. So the first way that we're winning with our buyers is we generate a good amount of out-of-state buyers that are relos, and those people can pay entirely cash for houses here. I'll give you an example of one of our clients who sold their house in Colorado and negotiated a sale leaseback for their house for a month, and they sold it for like $530,000, and then they have about $300,000 in cash that they're going to come buy a house here for about $200 to $250 cash, because it's way better market than it is in Colorado, and they can come here and just pay cash for a house and get a mansion compared to like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house out there in Colorado. So that's one way that we're winning, is generating out-of-state buyers to come to Wichita and pay all cash for houses. Number 2 also has to do with cash, because as we know, like in real estate, like money talks more than anything. Cash for appraisal gaps, whether equity or liquid. We are basically giving people more assurance that we're going to hit the purchase price value that we said we pay for it. For example, let's say we offered on a house that was listed at $215,000, saying we'll go to $235,000 to pay for it, and we will give you a $10,000 appraisal gap assurance, saying that if the appraisal comes in low at like $225,000, we'll bring the additional $10,000 in cash to make sure that we hit the $235,000 mark that you're looking for. So that's one strategy we're using, cash for appraisal gaps. And that doesn't necessarily need to be cash from your savings account or directly in your account. It can be from the sale of your home, equity just transferred over that way. So if you're selling like a 150 and you have equity for that, you could transfer some of that equity as an appraisal gap waiver into the next house to buy that $215,000, $235,000, $250,000, depending on where you're trying to move up to. The third way that we are winning in this market is our agent relationships. And honestly, in a crazy wild market like this, that's more important than ever, how some people can be at each other's throats in this situation. So really doing the agent relation work to really build agent communities and not being a jerk about a lot of these things, a jerk about these situations, having a good reputation within the agent community as being a reliable, smooth realtor who really knows their stuff, is really good to work with, is very professional, negotiates well, and is strong for their clients, but also is polite, professional, succinct, detailed, accurate, got their job done well. That's really helped our deals go a long way, and to make this situation as easy as possible for not only the listing agent, but also the seller to read your offers, deal with your offers, deal with you, deal with the situation. We as agents don't need to be making this situation any harder or difficult than it is. And we know certain agents can make this process harder than it needs to be, but we have been known for not being that way when it comes to being polite, succinct professionals, that we're all about business and getting the job done and being professional about it. Number 4 also kind of goes right into that, is we've really worked to maintain a data list or database of quality lenders and inspectors, because who you use for those partnerships matters more than ever in winning. Because if you have a local lender that's got a good reputation, can close on time, not a bunch of fuss, not a bunch of hassle through underwriting, your deal is more likely to get accepted because the agent knows that. Because usually the listing agent is an experienced agent and looks at who your lender is, and the better your lender is, the better your offer looks. Same thing with inspectors. If you go with an inspector that's known to try to kill deals or scare buyers or create a bunch of problems, your offer is not as good if you go with this not as reputable inspector. And so making sure you have a quality lender and a quality inspector makes your offer better for that seller to consider. So that's just, again, another way that we're winning in this market, is considering all these things, not just price. Like cash is a big one, price is a big one, but there's a lot of other terms and considerations when it comes to certainty that sellers want to see, not just who's got the most money, especially when it comes to appraisals. But number 5 that we go with to win is what we call an escalation clause. Being a listing agent, seeing a lot of the offers that people bring in is a very big advantage, because I get to see what everybody's doing to win in this market or not doing. And it always surprises me how many agents don't use escalation clauses. They'll just bring me a straight up offer for a house that I got listed at $230, and they just bring me an offer for $240. I'm like, you realize if you would have used an escalation clause, you wouldn't have had to pay $240,000 for this house. You could have paid $230 or $231, or not as much as you just made your client pay because you were lazy about your job and you didn't call me and talk to me. You just submitted an offer at $240. Of course, my seller and I are going to take that, but you don't realize how lazy you were about not costing your client another $40,000. And so that's why we use the escalation clause. And what an escalation clause says is, buyer will beat any competing offer by $1,000 up to, but not to exceed, your cap. So let's say the house is listed at $215 and you say we'll go up to $235. That escalation clause will beat another offer that came in at, say, like $220. Then our offer goes to $221 and pays just enough to win the house, but you're not way overpaying it or paying more than you need to win the house. So hopefully that kind of makes some sense with that. We can go in more detail in person, but escalation clauses are a big one that we use to win houses. Escalation clauses, appraisal gap waivers, inspection waivers, using quality lenders and inspectors, not being known for being that agent who comes in and tries to renegotiate the deal now that you got under contract. Like, just be succinct, fair, equitable, upfront, concise from the start. Make a fair deal and make these things happen. I think that's 5 of them, and I'm going to give you a bonus one. A bonus one that we do, I kind of mentioned it earlier, is seller leasebacks. And seller leasebacks are a big thing, whether you are allowing the seller to do that, or let's say, like I did with my out-of-state people, I'll negotiate a seller leaseback so they can come here and pay cash to the seller here in Wichita. Seller also being flexible with seller leasebacks as a buyer, saying, hey, we'll buy the house, but we'll allow you to close on it, and then you can have a week to move out. You don't need to move and close and move the same day, because we all know that's a logistical nightmare for most people. It's like, well, how do I sell my house and buy the next one and move in and this and that? And as a buyer's agent, that's again another non-financial thing that's a big consideration for that seller to consider your offer, is if you're willing to do a seller leaseback to them, whether for a low rate like $10 to $20 a day, or just in good faith, that's fine. You can do that. Just kind of a late possession, 4 or 5 days, give them a chance to move, that kind of thing. My screen just went out, so that's great. Let's pull that back up. So anyway, hopefully that helps you understand a little bit of this. Again, that's only 6 ways we're winning. There's a lot of other things that we go into with our detailed strategies and tactics to win in this market. Because right now it's easier than ever to find somebody who wants to buy a house, but actually getting them in that house is a whole nother ballgame. And you might be thinking, like, why would I share all this with you? Why would I just give you all of this information? Because at the end of the day, I know that you might understand the concept, but are you able to actually pull it off? whether you're an agent or a client, you really got to be looking at that going like, okay, I get what Ben's saying, but how do I do it? I don't know how to do this. So I fully understand, like I have no like concern with sharing you everything I know, because even if you know it, you're still going to need me to pull it off and to execute it, whether you're an agent, whether you're a client, anywhere like. So with that, I mean, if you're a potential client, any of these strategies that you need like in your life, let me know. Obviously I can show you more in detail how they work. I can do them for you if you're looking to buy a house. I just want you to know how we're winning in this market, not to like toot my own horn, that kind of thing, but just to promote our services and how like not every realtor is the same by any means. Like there's ones like ourselves who really know how to do what we do very well. And I feel like you owe it to yourself to get that type of a realtor if you're looking to buy a house. But as far as agents, if you're not being taught these strategies, these tactics, these methods, how to specifically, succinctly pull this off, how to have those conversations with those clients, like I think you need to maybe evaluate your mentor, your coach, your brokerage, your leader, whoever's really training you and teaching you. Because if they're not teaching you how to win in this market right now, you kind of got to ask yourself if you're in the right spot. Because if they're not teaching how to successfully pull these things off, what's the value of where you're at? You kind of gotta ask yourself that situation, of why am I still listening to this person if I'm not winning? If what they're teaching me isn't getting me to win, maybe I need to reevaluate who I'm listening to and what they're teaching me. If that is something you'd be open to, you can always DM me for a private conversation. I'll always keep it confidential, just like I do with my clients. Very good about that. But if you want to learn how to win in this market, like not just prance around playing realtor, having fun, showing houses, being a pretty door opener and kind of playing realtor, and you want to actually take this seriously and be successful, not only for yourself, but for your clients, go ahead and message me and we'll get a conversation going on how we can get that going. But anyway, I appreciate you guys watching. As always, hopefully you learned a little bit more how we're winning in real estate these days, and we'll talk to you guys later. See ya.